Former Prime Minister Scott Morrison has delivered his thoughts, shared his thoughts with a US congressional inquiry into the Chinese Communist Party. And he's warned people about the rise of China and its strategic intent. And he's talked about the importance of the US-Australia relationship in being a counterbalance to China in the East Asia region. Here's some of Scott Morrison in Washington.
That is an objective of the CCP, that Western democracies will go to sleep on the threat.
Let's go to former Foreign Minister Alexander Downer, who joins us live from London. Good to talk to you as ever, Alexander. You would have seen these comments from Scott Morrison and probably, I would have thought, considered that they are very timely words of wisdom given the current situation.
Yes, I think what he said was very sensible. I mean, of course, we have to deal with China. We have to coexist with China. We need to understand that. But on the other hand, we need to be realistic about what China's intentions are. It wants to diminish the importance and the influence in international affairs of liberal democratic states, in particular led by the United States. And that ambition of China's has to be countered. And we counter it through our network of alliances, which all link up with each other. And in the Indo-Pacific region, in particular, the US alliances with Australia and Japan, importantly. These counterbalance the weight of China, the influence of China, and underline the need for peace in the region. You'll only achieve peace in the region, or peace globally for that matter, if there's a proper balance of power. So we have to try to understand that, get our heads around that, rather than thinking the whole time, would China invade Australia or something like that? That's not really the point. The point is we need to make sure there's a balance of power in the Indo-Pacific region.
Yeah, that's well articulated. And this, look, the yin and the yang of this played out today, because you had Twiggy Forrest basically saying, don't treat China as an enemy. We all want to be friends and we're all going to be bathed in riches and prosperity if we do so. But he's ignoring the reality of what's been playing out, some of the intimidation through trade and military exercises, also the massive military build-up of China, and also what Xi Jinping himself has been saying about China's aspirations.
I think Twiggy Forrest may have a conflict of interest here. Here's a man who's literally made billions of dollars out of exporting to China, so he would say that. And I'm not criticising him for it, but it's a conflict of interest. Look, we need to be realistic about this. Of course, we need to deal with China and trade with China. But I mean, I just repeat, we need a balance of power. Without that balance of power, then the international as well as the regional security situation could completely collapse. If there wasn't a balance of power, what would China do in the South China Sea, which it claims as its own? What would happen to relations between China and Vietnam, China and the Philippines? What would happen to Taiwan? What would happen to Japan? These are real questions of uncertainty. So instead of talking to Twiggy Forrest, it may make some sense to talk to people like the foreign minister of a country like India, and get a geopolitical perspective from somebody like that who's worried about China asserting its power and likewise needs to understand the need for a balance of power to keep the peace.
Now, there's been a big breakthrough when it comes to trade between Australia and the US on not a massive trade industry, I suppose, but certainly one that's been very much a sore point with President Donald Trump. Let me show you what the Trade Minister, Don Farrell's had to say about this today.
We don't link biosecurity issues with trade issues. They're separate issues.
Now, you've had a lot of experience with these non-tariff barriers, as they say in the trade game, where there's been scientific decisions against various imports into Australia. Has this decision, do you think, does it smack of a proper biosecurity science decision, or is this political science at play?
Exactly. This is very obviously political science. I mean, either we take seriously our biosecurity regime or we don't. And I think we're somewhere between the two. We do use it for political reasons. It's sometimes used as a form of protectionism. I can remember in my time as the foreign minister, the New Zealanders complaining because our biosecurity advice was to ban the import of apples from New Zealand. Well, you know, it was a big political issue. I remember including in my own electorate. The apple producers didn't want competition from New Zealand, so biosecurity was used to try to keep New Zealand apples out. Well, I don't know the background to the beef issue, American beef issue, but it smells very much like politics at play here, and a measure that the government's now taken to appease the Trump administration.
We will see whether throwing another sirloin on the barbie works in that relationship. Good to talk to you again, Alexander. We'll catch up again next week.